Wonderful batting. Well, that's what we're going to talk about now. With this man, a wonderful player, I have very two able ball boys. Shoot. Thank you. See you in a minute. What was the key thing for you to get right with your batting, to feel comfortable?
Again, it was summing up conditions, you know, before the game, having a look at the wickets, having a feel how it's going to play. And then once you walk out there, for me, my most important thing was trigger movements. I like to get nice and ready early, get my back and a cross in, head nice and still parallel to the ground, and then just watch the ball. I try to get that in just as the bowler released the ball, or maybe just sort of that much after he's released the ball.
And what was the movement? What guard would you take, by the way, by and large?
It would depend. Again, if we're playing in South Africa, Australia, maybe New Zealand, where there's a bit more bounce and a little bit more movement, I'd try and get to off-stump and cover the stump, certainly in Test cricket. And even in one-day cricket, early on in the innings, just to give myself a few balls to get in. In the subcontinent, where there's less bounce, you want to stay leg side of the ball, get your pads out the way, gives you the opportunity to score square the wicket. So, again, it just depended on how I thought the wicket was going to play and summing that up and making a call before I walked out to bat.
Well, say you were playing at the MCG today and you were starting your innings, so you weren't looking to go expansive. Where would you stand and what are the movements for your trigger?
I'd take middle stump and then sort of get back and across onto off stump, and then I like to get my front foot at that stage slightly closed so I'd align myself up with the bowler, because invariably most balls get bowled outside the off stump, so it gave me you know, less space to get to the ball, less because you don't have a lot of time, so you just want to get across to off stump to cover that ball that's sort of on that fourth stump line.
And the weight was pretty much
My weight was
even?
pretty much even, maybe slightly on the front foot, which allowed me to push back if it was short, but not too much, because if you've got too much weight on the front foot, if you actually transfer your weight back to go forward again, you don't have time for that.
Another basic, how did you grip it?
I was very standard grip. You know, a lot of guys have got a strong grip these days, but I was very much standard. The old adage of putting the bat on the ground, picking it up like that, that was pretty much my grip. Yeah, that was pretty much mine. My whole technique was based on trying to keep it as simple as possible, because if things do go wrong, if you've got a simple technique, it's very easy to, you know, to fix it if it does go wrong. Where if it is complicated, it can take a little bit longer.
So what were you trying to get out of practice? Was it just to get the trigger movement right, the repetition right every single time? Definitely, and you know, I wasn't a big one for hitting a lot of balls. I know there are guys that enjoy it, guys like Hashim Amla, love hitting a lot of balls to make sure they feel prepared. For me, if I'd hit 15, 20, 30 balls, and I hit them as I would like to have, I got out there because I walked out of the net feeling confident. Yep. I tried to practice every time how I would play. You know, if you're going to walk into a net and mess around, you're wasting your time, because you can take bad habits that you develop into the nets, into the middle. So I try to replicate the situations in my net practice that I was going to do and use in the middle. Ricky Ponting said to me he would always make sure that the bowlers would run in with brand new balls, because that's what he would face at number 3. Would you do that? Again, yes, most of the time. Certainly if I was working on getting in, which if you're batting at the top of the order, your most vulnerable part of your innings is your first 15, 20 balls. So I made sure I practiced that and got confident, knowing that I hadn't got out in those first few balls in the net practice. That's what I tried to do. And then after that, maybe if there are a few net bowlers around, get them to bowl slightly older balls and then get your shots that you want to play and manufacture in the nets. Let's see a little bit of you in action. Let's see the cover drive. That was the one shot I really enjoyed watching you play. So the trigger is there, slightly shut off, beautiful high hands and balance. Is that what you're looking for? Again, yes, and as that ball was bowled, that's probably the perfect area where I was looking balls to be bowled at. You know, the strength of mine was standing up a little bit and hitting it through the covers. You know, I obviously worked my whole career on setting up a few shots that I enjoyed and felt where my strength was. That certainly was one of my strengths, and knew that that was my bread and butter. Right, do you mind hitting a few? I'm going to try. We have Mark Butcher standing by. Katie, we better get out of the way here, because we're going to get pinned otherwise, so you go over here. And so it's about the trigger being correct, again, balance into the ball, is it? Again, hopefully I can... Middle one, as long as I don't hit you. No, you're all right. I'll be here. Oh, Butch. Don't want any of those now. He's adjusted it. So would you ever, I mean, that's a perfect balanced position there, and you've hit that straight through the line where you're set up in your stance. Would you ever be manipulating the face of the bat? Again, yes, it's about the timing of when to do that. Early on in innings, you're looking to get your feet moving, get the weight going, getting a feel for conditions, and then you're trying to place the ball where the fielders obviously aren't. Sure. Early on in your innings, batting at the top of the order, generally the fielders are up.
So if you do pierce a gap, you know, you can pick up a lot of runs, mainly boundaries. Again, for me, foot movement wasn't about how far I got forward and far back. You know, when you're facing guys at 140, you don't have time. So as long as it's a little movement and transferring the weight, you know, for me, I felt if I took a big stride and already my weight felt like it was going back, and it's hard to get it over my front foot.
Into it, right.
So for me, it was just a little stride, and then it's easier to get my weight over my front foot, which is what you want to do to hit the ball late and feel in control of the shot.
Let's show you hitting the ball through mid-wicket, because I suppose the key to this shot is the head position, is it? You haven't fallen too far over.
Again, because I was slightly closed, I knew that I had to be very well balanced in order not to miss that to get out to LBW or bowled. So for me, again, getting my head and my eyes parallel to the stumps, I lined them up on that, being nice and still, and really concentrating on when the ball is straight, that my weight goes over my front foot, to allow me to that opportunity to hit it, because I knew if I missed it, I'm in desperate trouble.
So when it was drifting straighter into your pads, would you initially be looking to hit mid-on, and if it went further down, you just rock and roll your wrists with it?
Definitely. If you start looking to hit it through square leg or mid-wicket too early, you know, you're going to get into trouble, and you come across the ball, and then you're trying to hit a ball early in your innings with half a bat. You know, the odds aren't in your favour. So again, it's looking to hit it at mid-wicket, lining it up there, and if it does carry on drifting in, I actually felt that sometimes my front foot actually came back.
Really?
So that I could get over it better to hit it through mid-wicket. Then you need to make sure that you're well balanced for that.
OK, Katie, we better get that way. Oh, we swapped. It's not Katie. Katie's holding the rope. Right, could you just stray on to Mr. Kallis's pads, Mr. Butcher? You know that?
Just bear with me. I don't want to show you up again.
Whoa.
Keep swinging. Sorry.
So that's about the perfect one. Your head would end up, I suppose, on top of sort of off stump.
It would, yes. And again, when you hit it good, you know, you end up probably sometimes just being on the front foot like that because your weight's over the ball. The last thing you want to be doing is doing that. You know, mid-wicket area can be a tricky one if there's a guy catching. So I knew if I hit it good, I'd end up on almost on one leg like that, and then I'm in control of it.
I'd like to show you a split screen because A.B. de Villiers, it'd be fair to say he modelled some of his triggers on you initially, didn't he? So this is your trigger on the left there. So again, you've just slightly shut yourself off and that glorious cover drive. De Villiers now, though, is keeping his left leg sort of more leg side. Why is he doing that?
It's something that I'm working on as well. You know, in the modern day game, you want to give yourself room in order to hit the ball. It's no longer about just worrying about not getting out. I think in Test cricket, I would still, if I was still playing, would still want to be slightly shut because you want to feel like you're more in control. But the modern day and way is to give yourself room and not to get yourself to the pitch of the ball, because then you limit yourself. You think of a golf swing, the guys are a long way away from the ball. They can hit it a long way, and that's the way batting's going. Most guys are trying to get their front leg out of the way. Firstly, in one-day cricket, generally there's no slip, so if you do nick it, it's 4 and it's a bonus. And it's just about giving yourself room. And as you can see there from AB, a ball that in olden day one-day cricket that is fourth stump, where guys are sort of heading that down to mid-off, because they're getting their left leg out the way now, can actually hit that past point simply by changing their trigger movement, making it so much tougher for bowlers because now they've got massive scoring options. So
have you tried to change your trigger movement for these T20? And how have you found it? Because muscle memory is ingrained into you to sort of make that movement.
Yeah, it's been a tough one because, you know, I felt like I'm really open, and you look at the video replays and, you know, I can still go a bit more where it feels like, gee, I'm really open. Yeah. But it's something that I'm working on. It worked nicely for me at Big Bash. So, you know, I'm getting there, it's still working on that. But it's not massive changes, it's little changes just to stay you know, up with the game, the way the game has changed, the way batters are playing the game differently. You have to stay up with times in order if you want to keep up with these new guys that are coming in with these outrageous shots.
Well, let's talk about these outrageous shots. Sorry to everybody, I'm going to change the order here. What I'd like is the A.B. de Villiers extraordinary shots, because he is getting into some bizarre positions. I mean, highlighted in that unbelievable innings against the West Indies. I mean, look at that, outside off stump, reverse sweeping the seamers up and over. Look at that. Now, is he just a freak?
Yes. Well, first of all, he's got to be damn supple to be able to get into some of those positions. I certainly can't get into that. But it just shows. I think, you know, a few months ago, he sort of sat down and said, I want to revolutionise the way one-day cricket's played. And he certainly has done that. Sri Lanka did that a few years ago, coming out with the pinch hitters. And he wanted to change the way batters think about batting. And actually, he's a tough guy to bowl to, because not only does he play those shots and you think, okay, I've seen him go, I'm going to change where I'm going to bowl the ball, he's got a shot for that as well. So he doesn't give himself one option.
Yeah.
You know, even though he gets into those strange positions, he's still got an option to go somewhere else. The key for me is he goes early.
So he
his
gets
head
balanced.
is still
Yeah.
balanced. Again, and batting's all about being in good, strong positions. And the stronger position you can get into, the better chance you give yourself of playing the shot and playing the shot correctly that you want to play. And he's so balanced, and he keeps his eyes so level. I mean, when we walk down the road, we don't walk down the road with our heads, their head in that position. So why should we bat doing that? So he keeps his eyes parallel, watches the ball onto the bat, and gets away with his outrageous shots. And the scary thing is how consistently he's doing it. And not only him, you know, other players around the world, they've changed the way batting is in one-day cricket, and man, it's fun to watch.